Welcome to Inside Sim Racing and part 2 of our iRacing tutorial. This is actually rookie to D-license now. Darren Ganji here with Sean Cole. And hopefully you've watched part 1. And again, that was getting set up, getting your hardware all set up. And now we're going to take you through getting through that rookie class and getting that D-license and everything that goes along with it. But if you don't want to go through the iRacing progression or license tier, and let's say you just joined to drive the IndyCar or the NASCAR or the Formula One, whatever it may be, you can do that still.
Absolutely. You don't have to go through that progression. You can get into any hosted session right off the bat. And what these are, I mean, starting with the hosted sessions, you're looking at private sessions that you, me, anyone could host them, and they could run any car or track, and they can open them up to anybody. Now, they could be restricted, but if you were joining a league, for example, you could get into any car and track combo right off the bat.
And anybody can run a league. So again, it could be a single session or a full series of races. You can be running every day, every week, once a month, whatever it is, you can do it.
So we mentioned all the way through part 1, and we talked about safety rating, and now's a good time to go a little more in depth on safety rating. And number 1, this is the score that judges your ability to be on track, whether it be alone or with others, and that's staying on track, not hitting walls, not hitting other cars, cutting courses, or doing anything like that. And basically the safety rating is a score from anywhere from 0 to 4.99.
As you compete your sessions, your safety rating will rise or fall based on the number of incidents accrued in a given session. Not all sessions apply, and we'll get to that in a minute. Competing in an incident-free session will cause a rise in your safety rating, and maintaining a safety rating of 3.0 or higher will ensure promotion to the next license level or license class, as long as you meet the minimum participation requirements. Now, that was how it originally, when we first started, that's how it was, and you had to wait a whole season and maintain that 3.0 to get to the next license level. That's not the case now. Now they have something called fast tracking, where basically you get to a 4.0 and have your minimum participation requirements met, and you get the next license.
Instantly.
So minimum participation requirements, what's that? MPR, it says it up at the, you can hover over it and it'll tell you where you're at with your MPR for that license level. And what that is, at the rookie class, you have to either run 2 races or 4 time trials.
And maintaining that MPR is really in separate classes because, again, you have a road and an oval license. I mean, theoretically, you could be a A-license oval driver and still be a rookie road driver.
Yep, or vice versa. So whatever you do on the roadside has no effect on the oval and vice versa. So you're basically, you have 2 careers in iRacing.
Now, when talking about safety rating, we talked about the incidents being the big criteria, the big thing that affects your safety rating. So what is an incident? An incident really starts with anytime you leave the road surface. I mean, if you go and put your wheels into the dirt or gravel, you've taken on an incident. You were off-road.
At first, I mean, if you even touched off-road, when we first started in iRacing, you got an incident. Now you can kind of get a half a tire off.
Right.
You get a full tire off and it's an incident point, and that's
Absolutely.
a -1 off track.
Yeah.
Then there's a contact incident.
Sure.
You can contact the wall, you can contact other cars, you can contact barriers, whatever, and those could be incident points.
You can also lose control. So anytime, it pretty much takes about a full 180. If you go sideways and just stay, but if you spin out, you're going to get an incident for that.
Yeah, actually it's defined with rotating 90 degrees or more to the direction of the track.
Okay.
So if you go more, that's a 2 times. Colliding with a barrier or other objects a 3 times. Contacting a fellow competitor is a 4 times. So depending on how many incidents you rack up in a particular session will depend on how your safety rating is affected during that session. So your goal is to leave a session incident-free, and that goes back to us talking about treating it like a real race car.
Yeah.
I mean, would you go out in a real race car on a track and push it to the point in your first laps where you're going off the track?
No.
Or hitting a barrier?
No.
Or hitting a competitor?
No.
No. So this is iRacing's way of keeping it clean.
And if you go to a racing school and you put 2 wheels off, they make you come in. You're losing laps and you paid money to be on that track. They're going to make sure rock didn't go through the radiator. Even if you're in your own car to track, you put 2 wheels off, I advise you, come into the pits, make sure you didn't mess something up on the car. So treat your sim racing car the same way.
Yep. You know, something that we didn't mention is how it can adversely, we talked about getting to the next license level, but what happens if that safety rating drops below a 2.0? Now, didn't it happen to you once?
It's happened to me. When I was doing my piece trying to gain a license, I actually lost a license, forcing the issue a little bit.
So what's the criteria?
I call it slow track. If you drop below 2.0, it doesn't have anything to do with MPR. It has to do with your safety rating. If you start proving that you're not a safe driver, they will drop your license.
So yeah, they'll drop it after a full season of competition. So if your license level is below a 2.0, you better work on it those last few weeks. Like right now, Sean's hovering on a 2.08 on his A license. So you gotta make sure you maintain that upper license level if you don't want to get dropped, because that could affect where you want to participate.
And even worse, you can actually get fast-track demoted as well if you drop below a 1.0 safety rating at any time.
So next up, we're going to talk about iRating. And iRating is basically points given to you based on how you've performed.
It's kind of like an odds-making device almost, because if you get into a race with somebody way higher than your iRating, they have more at stake than you do.
Yep. Yeah, and they have, honestly, if you're in one of those races, those guys with a higher iRating will gain less than somebody that doesn't, let's say. Now, in part 1, we mentioned reading the sporting code, and that's where, if you've read it, like we told you to, you'll already know what we're talking about here with what iRating has to do with and how you advance or decrease your iRating level. So read that sporting code. And a tip for me, as far as what I do, I try to always finish in the upper half. If I want to advance my iRating, I'm always trying to finish in the upper half. I mean, that's what racing is all about anyway. But as long as you're really focusing on that and finishing in the upper half of your events, your iRating should increase, whether it be small or in leaps.
Sure, usually the upper half at least gets points instead of loses points. And as a rookie, I got to tell you, we can all point the finger, blame other drivers. Sometimes it's nasty out there in the rookie levels, but bottom line is you got to get through it. You got to earn those points. You got to race clean. And the whole point is to move up the ladder. So have fun with it and earn your way out of rookie class.
Yep. And now we mentioned safety rating and where it can be affected. And it can be affected in qualifying, time trials, and races at varying degrees, depending. But there's also your TT rating or your time trial rating. Let's say you joined iRacing and you really don't feel comfortable racing against other humans, other drivers. And if you just want to race against the track, see where you lie, in the time trial scheme of things, where your lap times lie, time trials may be a great thing for you.
Absolutely. Some people, maybe it comes down to like frame rates or things. Maybe their computer can't hang with a full group of people, so they find themselves running alone more often.
Yep.
But again, great place to still be competitive and still be out on your own.
And you can advance your license level there. It does take longer to advance your safety rating and stuff. You're not going to advance your iRating at all. Your iRating will not be affected. That's where your TT rating comes in, your time trial rating. And your time trial rating is just based on how you did in that particular time trial. There's no real finishing order. I mean, there is to an extent, but it's just affected on how you did in particular sessions and stuff like that.
Now, if you watch the videos and you've read all the materials, you've already heard about it, but there's sessions, and this is where you actually get out there and do some racing. 5 different types of sessions which you can join: practice, qualify, time trial, race, and test.
And none of these sessions are linked to one another, so if you join a practice session, that does not necessarily link into the qualifying and race sessions. In the iRacing tree. Now, in hosted sessions, they do, or they could. There's a tournament where you could advance separately, but that's a whole other story. So once you register for a session by clicking on one of the red times in the schedule or on the session page, a countdown timer will appear at the top right of the page showing you the time remaining before the start of that session. Now that's in qualifying and races and in time trials. In practice, you're just waiting to stage and you'll just join whenever. In tests, you'll just join as soon as you can. As soon as you hit test, it just goes right to the track. But the other ones, there's a countdown. Now, if you join a race session and you withdraw, I think it's 1:30 left on the countdown. If you withdraw, that withdrawal button changes to forfeit. you forfeit that session and your iRating will be adverse. You'll finish last, basically.
Right.
Your safety rating won't be touched.
No incidents, but
because you didn't even drive on track, but your iRating will get tanked.
Gave away those points.
So only click join on a session if you plan on racing in it. And if you don't, you best get out before a minute 30's left on that clock or you're going to forfeit.
I think we've all done that by accident.
I've accidentally forfeited one.
Now, when it comes to racing, the first place you should go, no matter what, is
not even racing. This
driving.
Isn't even racing. Yes.
This is your first time on track. No matter what, you should go to the testing tab.
Yep.
And this is an area where you go out on any track, any car combo, all alone.
That you own.
That you own. And you're alone. So you're not going to have any safety rating at stake, no incidents. There's nothing to think about but getting your control of the car and really feeling things out.
Yeah, and there's two different test sessions. One, there's a full test panel. So again, you can test any car on any track. Or if you're in a particular season or session, you can test at the car and track combo that series is at.
Yeah.
So there's two different ways. So next is practice sessions, and that's only related to a series. And the series is going to be at a particular track, and it's going to have obviously a particular car running at that track. And that's where you can practice that week. But yeah, practice sessions, you can join anytime, and there's usually more than enough. I think they add sessions as more people join.
Right.
You can see how many people are in that session, how much time is left, and the sessions vary depending on the type of series that you're running. But safety rating and iRating does not count. You'll see incidents that you're getting,
right,
but they don't adversely affect or positively affect your account. So that's a practice session. Again, you can run against other cars or tracks. You know what? Be conscious of the other guys on the track because they're not there to be in a wreck fest.
No.
You know, they're there to practice that track and car combo. So go in the test session first before you go out there and know the track. Otherwise, you could upset some other guys.
Yeah. So that takes us to qualifying. And if you're in a season session, and you've picked a car track that you're running in order to get into the race, well, you don't have to qualify, but I would highly advise qualifying. And this is qualifying for this week's car and track combo. So at the end of the week, when they change things over, you're going to need a new qualifying. But any of the race sessions under the iRacing series, you use these qualifying efforts. And when you're on qualifying, you are completely on the clock when it comes to safety rating.
Yep, safety rating does count. There's no iRating or time trial rating associated with it, but your safety rating can be affected. So don't hit the wall, don't go off track, because all of that stuff will affect your safety rating. Now, road racing qualifying sessions are generally 30 minutes with multiple drivers on track at the same time. So you're not on track by yourself. And again, you could affect, I'll tell you what, it's best to know where other drivers are on track, both for yourself. And the last thing you want to do is come out of pit lane while some guy's doing his flying lap, and you are affecting his turn one braking point because you didn't pay attention to what was going on.
Yeah.
Make sure you know. Matter of fact, in real life, there'd be a steward waving you out on track.
Right.
You need to be your own steward and make sure that you're not affecting somebody else or your lap.
Yeah.
Or your safety rating. I mean, you could cause an accident in turn one. So there's an F3 relative screen. Make sure you have that up and you know what's going out. Know what's going on.
Yeah.
Ovals, different story. Single car, you're by yourself. I think you get 4 laps. So it's your best lap of those 4. And you go out, run your laps, qualify,
and you
that's
post
your
your
time.
time.
Now, you can post as many qualifying attempts as you want throughout that week.
Right.
And your best time will be the one that you go into the races with.
Right.
So if you want to race every single session that series has, you only have to qualify once, and your qualifying time
always stands.
Always stands. Well, it'll stand compared to where everybody else is. So
right.
You don't have to continue to qualify for every race. Next up, we'd already mentioned it too, is time trialing, and safety rating can be affected in time trial sessions and your time trial rating. So the bottom line is you're on track against the clock by yourself. Even though multiple people may join a time trial session with you, you do not see them on the track. You'll see their lap times,
right,
or their particular time trial time, but you don't see them on track. and you can't run into them and stuff like that. Now, during time trial sessions, basically your goal is to complete a certain group of laps incident-free, or you won't have a time trial time associated at that track.
Right, it's not just one lap hot lapping. You have to put a group of laps together consecutively.
Yep, and it's your average time based on that group of laps, and it's going to vary as you go up in license level, as you visit different tracks, oval to road, and again, your safety rating can be affected in those sessions.
Yeah, I like using time trial as a tool, actually. This is the first step to really putting yourself on that, like, real criteria of points on the line, safety rating on the line, but not adding the racing elements to it. But you need to be consistent, you need to be perfect, and there's still a lot at stake. So you can actually gain and improve your safety rating or hurt it, but...
Or if you're trying to get past a license level that you're not comfortable with that car and track or racing against other people, you could use time trials to get through that license level. So lots of cool things. You know, people say, what's the point of time trials sometimes, but I think it can be a great tool.
Yeah.
You know, for a lot of different things.
And it represents like the hot lap leaderboard that you would find on a lot of the consoles. So if you're coming from that and you just want to see where you rank against others, it's a good way to see that.
Okay, well, we've got you out on track. Talked about safety rating, iRating, time trial rating. Now it's time to go racing. Get that D license. And when we come back, we're going to talk about race sessions and then what it was like under Dario Fangini.
Starting out
again to get through that rookie class and get to that D license when we come back. GT Chassis Racing Rigs provided by Human Racing. Go to humanracing.co.th.
The T500 RS wheel and pedal set from Thrustmaster, officially licensed by Sony in Gran Turismo 5 and designed for the most die-hard racing fans. It has unmatched power and precision, it's backlash-free, and totally responsive. With this wheel and pedal set, users will go farther than ever before in their racing experience. To find out where to purchase the T500 RS, visit www.thrustmaster.com.
Welcome back to our iRacing tutorial, and now we're getting racing here.
Meat and potatoes.
Meat and potatoes. This is the real deal. This is where it all happens. This is where your safety rating and iRating is seriously affected. So this is where you're racing against a full field of other drivers in real time. Standing starts are used for road racing, and then rolling starts are used for oval races. You can start moving when the red lights turn green for road courses, and once the pace car rolls off for the ovals. Now, there's a saying in racing, and it's, the race is not won in turn one.
Right.
You can't win the race in turn one. So, first tip we're going to give you is...
You can lose the race in turn one.
Yes. Patience, okay? Don't rush into turn one and try to pick up as many positions as you can. Again, treat this like a real racing career and a real car. You don't want to damage that car. You don't want to damage somebody else's car. You will make somebody real mad.
Oh yeah.
If you take them out. So
you can make some genuine enemies.
For sure. I have some already in iRacing. Sean has some, and I'm sure somebody's enemy as well. So take that into account when you first start. You can't win in turn one.
Now when you've joined a race session and the game actually is launched, the timer has gone down, you'll go in and you do have a warm-up session, a 5-minute warm-up session prior to the race. So if you haven't turned any laps, good time to kind of feel things out real quick, give your system a shakedown, and maybe even get a little time around some other drivers who are going to be in that race.
Yep. Now, that warm-up session is live and can affect your safety rating. So if you wreck, not as adversely as if during the race, but if you wonder why at the end of the race why you had an incident and you didn't have an incident during the race, it's because you may have done something in warm-up.
Absolutely.
So, that warm-up session counts. Don't just, and again, watch your relative screen. Make sure you don't go out into somebody else's line.
Yeah.
So, be careful.
Yeah. Another thing you can do here is look at the grid tab, and that's actually going to show where you rank in that room. So when it does go green, you're going to know exactly what your starting position is.
Yep. So now, if you've got into that race and you're just not comfortable running in that pack, that first race, you can start in the pits. So let the grid timer go all the way to 0, and then join, and they're going to start you in the pits. You get to, after they take the green, they let you out, so you basically are at the back of the pack. And that may be a quicker way to advance your safety rating if you're struggling or if you're afraid to be next to somebody.
And keeps you out of that turn one incident that no matter how many times we say it, it's going to keep happening.
Especially at that rookie level, it happens quite a bit. Now let's back up just a little bit. Only 16 cars are going to run in that session with you. Now, if you're wondering what happened to all the rest of those guys that may have joined, because you'll see how many are joined before you log in or join the session.
While you're waiting for it to launch.
There could have been 100+ drivers. And so what happens is they're all split. And so everybody's going into their own splits based on iRating. Now, at the rookie level, I'm assuming it's more randomized because everybody's a rookie and you don't have an iRating yet.
Right.
At rookie, you don't get an iRating until you get to D. So we mentioned all this stuff about iRating. You don't get to see what your iRating is until you get your D license. So forget iRating for now because all you're focusing on is getting that D license, staying safe, staying on track, not hitting anybody, and getting up to your D license.
Well, and that kind of points out one little strategy about being the rookie class. There are no iRating points. Doesn't matter where you finish. It's finishing clean.
Yep, exactly. And I think behind the scenes they're giving you iRating points. So because once
Right.
you go to D, it'll show you where, if you tanked all your races, your iRating is going to be low to start with. So take that into consideration. So let's talk about competition licenses really quick too. Again, you start with the rookie, then it goes to D, C, B, A. Each car on track has a stripe that directly relates to that license level. Rookie is red, D is orange, C is yellow, B is green, A is blue, and then if you see a black stripe, that's a pro.
Yeah.
So you better be fast and be on your game if you're in a room with a pro driver.
Chances are you won't see that stripe very long.
No.
So that kind of tells you everything you need to know before jumping in, but it really doesn't tell you about the experience of jumping in. And as Darren mentioned, he went undercover, incognito, and kind of discovered what it was like to relive those steps as a rookie, both in the road and oval side. So start off with the road. What's it like? I mean, we took it for granted, just jumped all the way
things
in.
have changed a bunch too since we started.
Yeah.
We started, it was the Solstice at Lime Rock and Laguna.
Yeah.
And now it's the Mazda MX-5 at Lime Rock or Okayama.
Did you remember to paint your car?
Well, yeah, I did. Before I got out on track, that was the first thing I did. I painted my car. And so I also did a ton of practice. Even though I was familiar with the track, honestly, I stayed away from Lime Rock because Lime Rock's a little more dangerous. There's an uphill that the car loses, it gets very light and it's sketchy. So I figured I was just going to focus on Okayama, focus on one track, and I like Okayama better. So that's where I focused, practiced a bunch. I think I even ran a few time trials, got my safety rating built up a little bit, and then qualified.
So I got to ask you, you're kind of a rookie ringer, though. So your qualifying effort, did this put you, were you on the pole?
Yes, I was on the pole. Yeah, and honestly, once I started, my original goal when I started this, I was going to get up to a D license and do all this racing, and then after this race, I kind of felt bad. Like that I was the rookie ringer. I was coming in, and it really wasn't fair.
You're a A license driver normally, right?
Yeah, I'm an A on both road and oval. Yeah, and a long-time sim racer too. So, yeah, it was definitely, I had a one-up.
So, ultimately, you went through the steps, but it's hard to really get the experience on the roadside.
Yeah, now the roadside was honestly real easy for me because I qualified on the pole, and honestly, in both my races, it only took me 2 races to get my D license.
Right.
And I didn't fast track, and I'll tell you what I did. So I ran my 2 races. I ended up dominating both of them.
Right.
My only interaction with other drivers in that race was lap cars. And then I decided to hold off, and then it was at the end of the 4-week rookie progression. So in rookie, there's a 4-week season. I just thought, heck, I got my 3.0. As long as you have above a 3.0 and you've done your minimum participation, which was 2 races,
right,
you can advance. So
bam.
I was already at the end of the week.
Just like that.
It flipped over. I got my D license. So
okay. Well, so that's the roadside. Now, On the oval side, it's a little different. I mean, on the road, you can get away from people. It's very easy to just run clean laps, especially if you're out in front.
I want to add to that really quick. I mentioned starting from the pits. You don't really need to as much on the road side. I'd say if you're really worried about running up at the front of the pack, don't qualify.
Right.
And you'll start at the back of the pack, or start in the pits if you want. But it's not as important as on the oval side.
Yeah, now on the oval side, you just can't get away from people no matter how fast or slow you are, really.
I thought that might have been the case at USA, the short track, because there's 2 tracks on the oval side, and you're running the street stock. And when we started back, it was the Legends car, which is twitchy.
Right, yeah.
At South Boston, and do you remember what the other track was?
Lanier?
Yeah, Lanier.
Yeah.
Good, yeah. So now it's the street stock at Charlotte and USA. The USA is like a half-mile oval short track. Charlotte's flat out, almost like racing restrictor plate NASCARs at Daytona.
Are they all bunched up?
All bunched up, all the draft. I mean, you can't get away, period.
That's not good for safety rating from rookies.
No. And then USA, being a short track, I thought, oh, I can outdrive them. Sure enough, I think I don't know if I got the pole in that one, but I was near the front and got up front. 8 laps in, I got up front. I think we have this race recorded, and led from lap 8 until lap 32, and there was a dude that was with me that stayed with me the whole time, and he pulled a bump and run on me exiting turn 4, cost me a bunch of safety rating points, cost me the win. But man, I'll tell you, progressing through that oval rookie is a challenge because it's bumper to bumper.
Yeah. It's hard to not get an incident when people are bumper to bumper.
Yep. Charlotte, same thing. I ran basically 2 races. 2 races on the road and 2 races at oval to see what I could do.
Right.
Man, in oval, I think I only got to 2.75 is now my safety rating. I've time trialed. I've run 2 races. Both races, I think I've got at least 4 incidents minimum in both races. But oval progression is definitely going to be a lot tougher. And that's where time trials, and it's just because there's so many people on track, it's easier. So I got a feeling there's more gamepad drivers in the oval side.
Sure.
So if you want to get out of that and into, you could just either start at the back of the pack, time trial all you can to advance that, but it's not easy.
Well, again, I'm going to make that recommendation. Sure, you might be harming your invisible iRating, but just go get some space, one way or another. I mean, it's really about getting through those ranks.
Yep. Yeah, and taking your time and treating it like a real race car. And if everybody that is at the rookie levels treated it like a real race car, it would have been a little bit easier to get through. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But I got to tell you, as soon as you get to that D license, that's where people are really starting to treat it like a real race car. And here's why. People are starting to buy content. So, you know, versus coming in where a lot of people could be racing completely for free at the base. And I don't think they're taking it as seriously as somebody that's now got their D license, has progressed, has bought the cars and the tracks. They're taking it serious.
Yeah, and you can't even be a ringer in the rookie through D Miata class, for example, because you have a lot of pros and A-level drivers who run in that because it's a real fun series.
It is, and it is. You know, some people love running the street cars. Personally, I ran a bunch of street cars recently, and I love race cars. So if you don't, again, like we talked about at the beginning, if you don't want to have to go through iRacing's license progression, you can just run in hosted races and sessions and leagues. As a matter of fact, sscarace.com is a league that we're tied to, and they run Indy cars and a GT series. So as long as you have the tracks and the cars, you're racing.
Yeah.
And the service. So you can't maybe take advantage of, you know, the participation credits, because you don't get participation credits for running in hosted to make your base membership go down.
Right.
But you can do it. So I think that pretty much wraps it up.
Yeah.
We've gone through pretty much everything getting to that rookie. I wanted to tell you more about how to get that D license, but hopefully everything we told you getting to that helped you get there. Treating it like a real race car, using all the resources there are out there, time trial, practice, master the track and car. I mean, that's one of the best things. That's how I won those 2 races. Yeah, I was a ringer coming into Okayama, you know, in the Miata, and I liked that combo. But I became even more of a ringer by practicing and time trialing before I raced, and then I just dominated. And I'm not saying that's going to happen to you, but you have a lot better shot at progressing and getting out of that D license or out of that rookie license if you take that path.
Absolutely. One thing also I think, and maybe that's one of the points that we made all the way throughout this show, is to be knowledgeable about the racing, both on track and the rules. We're here to have fun. We're here to win and to race hard, and things do happen, but there's very little room for the guy who just lets stuff happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Have fun too. That's one of the other keys. So hopefully you've enjoyed both of our shows here, and if you have and we get a lot of great feedback, maybe we'll take it to another level and go in some other areas, maybe how to really get through one season. Maybe one of us will focus on, you know, getting through that season, practicing for different races. How do you get setups, you know, stuff like that. And forums, visit the forums, become part of the community, get on a team. You know, that's a great way to get involved, get new friends. Sean and I became friends. And started this whole show because we were sim racing teammates. Again, hope you've enjoyed it. Go to our forums at isrtv.com, specifically our iRacing section, to get more tips on iRacing and getting started in PC racing in general. Visit the iRacing forums, read all those resources, watch those videos, become well versed in this. This is your iRacing career, and you should treat it as such.
I'll give you one more little tip before we sign out, or at least from my end. When you're on track in a room full, ask for help there too.
Yep.
I mean, people in this sport or hobby are extremely generous and extremely friendly. So as long as you're on taking the right approach, you're going to get good results in return.
Yep.
You know, if you're the guy knocking everyone off track and making a mess of yourself, no one's going to help you at all.
Gentleman
It'll be quite
racer.
the opposite. Yeah.
Be a good Samaritan. So, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, come to our site, isrtv.com, and subscribe to us here on YouTube. And hopefully you've enjoyed this show. For Sean Cole, I'm Darren Ganji, and hopefully we'll see you on the track soon.